What's the real experience of buying an online business for your very first time? How hard is it? What does it look like? Where are you going to slip up and fail? And what's the time frame and the journey really look like? Hi, I'm Jaryd Krause. I'm the host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And today I'm speaking with Jpaul. He is a Buying Online Businesses graduate. He has bought his first online business. It's an e-commerce business. And in this podcast episode, I just have him share everything about why he got into online businesses, why he wanted to buy an online business, how long it took him, how many businesses he looked at, the due diligence he did, the businesses he said no to, and why. We talk about how a lot of his outside influence actually slowed him down a little bit, or was at least in his ear around like, why would you be doing this online thing and buying product and inventory from China, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't sound right. And just how hard the journey was for him, but how he succeeded and how he pushed through it. We also talk about the business he bought, some of the businesses that he looked at that were risky. We talked about a business that he missed out on or actually didn't end up buying due to a Google algorithm change. We talk about how much he bought the business for, the multiple, how much it's making per month. We talk about how the business is going to grow, the opportunity, and all the lessons and education he learned from the journey of buying the business, and what he had to do to change within himself and throughout the journey to get to this destination. And if you're looking at buying a business for your first time and you've got a little bit of fear and not exactly sure of like, is this actually real? Which is same as most people starting out. It is scary and you may not know it's real until you actually get into it. And Jpaul shares that experience of how he felt and the fears that he had and how he overcame them. So this is a very valuable podcast episode if you're looking at buying your first online business. Obviously, don't go away and do this for free. You can get my DD framework, which takes the guesswork out of buying businesses. It's what I've used, what a lot of clients have used to buy great businesses. buyingonlinebusiness.com/free resources. Get that for free. And the guesswork out of buying a business. Now let's listen to Jpaul on the pod. Jpaul, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, man. Congratulations. You bought your first online business. How does it feel?
It feels good. Had that first moment of shock and just kind of, what have I done? And so then it's just off to the races, getting in the weeds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to that and talk about growth and stuff like that, us working together and what that's looked like so far already. But why buy an online business? Like, when did this thought pop in?
Yeah, so I've been in business since about 2015. Started some coffee shops and ran those, grew them, ended up with 3 locations and sold it a couple of years ago. I actually bought a plumbing company, which I knew nothing about plumbing, just bought it with a partner. And so I've been interested in getting into online business and just didn't pull the trigger for a long time. I'd say that's my biggest regret. I wish I would have got into it a few years ago when I first kind of found out that it was a viable option, a real option. But finally pulled the trigger and got it done. So I'm excited to keep learning and get into it a little bit more.
So much in that. I want to touch on starting earlier when you first found out about it soon, but why did you sell the coffee shops?
I just got burnt out on it, to be honest. I started it, had a lot of life changes in between, and it had done really well. But it was one of those things that it had grown, and it just got to a point where I was just kind of like, this business would be better in someone else's hands, because I was just mentally burnt out by it. There were some aspects of it that I didn't enjoy to get it to the next level. So some of those were dealing with real estate, things like that. It was like, man, it was just a lot. And so I just kind of decided, rather than just let it die or get worse and stuff, I was like, let's sell it at a high point and take that capital and do some other things with it.
Yeah, congratulations. And so you went and bought a plumbing company with a friend.
Yeah.
What was the motivation behind that one?
So the coffee shops I started from scratch. I mean, coming up with the ideas, the names, the designs, logos, all of that. And I loved being in business. I liked being a business owner, entrepreneur, things like that. But I didn't want to go through that again. I was like, I don't want to start from scratch. It just didn't sound enticing. So I knew I wanted to buy a business. And to be honest, I didn't know really what I wanted to buy. Did a lot of research and stuff like that. I came across a plumbing company that in my hometown that I was looking at, and I just tried to get as much deal flow as possible. And as I was going through this one, I kind of had my criteria, different things, and it just kept checking boxes. You kind of got to where I was just like, man, maybe this is a good deal. Maybe this is something. And so I ended up, my business partner, he's a CPA, and I took it to him and was just like, hey, look at this. Tell me if I'm missing something, like, am I not seeing something? Am I being kind of stupid here? And he looked at it, we went through it, and he liked it. And I kind of got the feeling, I was like, man, I think he liked that enough to maybe do it. So after the meeting, I called him. I said, do you want to go in and do this with me? And he was all over it. So I was glad. Going at it alone would have been a huge undertaking on something like that. So we did that and just got in it and started figuring it out as we went. We've had some ups and downs and some learning curves and bruises and things like that, but it's rocking and rolling. And so we're still going with it.
Cool. Awesome. And congratulations on that acquisition. And so with that, was he just your CPA and then you asked him if you wanted a partner, or was he already a partner in the coffee shop with you, or how did that partnership come about?
So my mom was originally my CPA. It was nice to have that in the family.
Yeah.
And as the coffee shops grew and she was trying to retire, I always joke and say she fired me as a client. And so he ended up taking over. I got referred to him and he took over a lot of her clients for her and stuff. And so he just was my CPA for a few years. And so that's how that came about. And so it's ended up being a great partnership. We complement each other well. So it's really worked out.
Yeah, awesome. And did he jump in on this acquisition with you? I think it was a solo though. You bought this yourself, right?
I bought this myself. Yeah, this one I did myself and just wanted to kind of go at it. This one on my own. It was a smaller deal. I don't think a whole lot of room for partnership at the point where it's at. So the online venture is all me and my wife. We kind of tag team and do some different parts of it.
That's cool. Let's talk about the lead time to get into it. I think a lot of people feel this as well, is that they find out, I could buy an online business. It's a lot less hands-on in terms of like being at a certain location and having in-person staff, especially when you think about a plumbing company.
Yeah.
Or a coffee shop as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what's the regret? Like, sure, it's not deep regret, but like, why would you have liked to have purchased earlier and sooner?
I mean, I think there's just things that I've owned this for a few weeks now. And I mean, it's just the things I've already learned that I don't think I could have ever learned just by reading articles and podcasts and things like that. I think that's something that's invaluable. And I'm sure there's a lot of your people that listen to you and go through your course probably feel the same way I did. Is there's a lot of like, is this real? Like, are people really doing this and money's going into their bank account?
Yeah.
And I would talk to friends, family, and tell them what I wanted to do. And they're just like, what? So my circle of people that are around me day to day physically, to them, it was like, that seems like sorcery. What?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of seemed crazy. So it always kind of, that kind of mindset crept in the back of my mind. And looking at it now, I'm like, no, this is real and this is doable. Even I'm not a huge tech person. I like tech as much as the next person, but I don't code. I didn't design websites or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that was obviously a big fear. Do I have the tech skills? And I mean, when you really get down to it, there are tech skills, but there's so many tools now. I've already found that it's like, oh, that tool can do that. All I have to know is, can I put in my credit card information or whatever it may be?
It's funny, isn't it? How you're like, when you come from the offline world to like the offline, like if you're working like a regular job and it's not like in an online business or even it's funny how there's an association of like, if you own an online business, you must be tech savvy. Yeah. But the reality is that if you own an iPhone or any smartphone, you're tech savvy. And if you know how to operate your phone, you can operate an online business. Like,
absolutely.
I'm not saying you're going to be an amazing entrepreneur just because you know how to operate your phone, but like the tech that you need to use on your phone is similar to the tech that you can be using for an online business.
Yeah. That was definitely a big struggle for me to get over. It was kind of one of those things. And I may have even mentioned to you, one of my bigger fears is, am I going to get this and click a button and break the whole thing?
Yeah.
So far, I've found it's pretty resilient. It's not as hard as it seems. I know we're going to hit bumps and bruises and there's different things, but it's not the tech that I was worried about. That's not any of the issues.
It is difficult, like you say, listeners to the podcast, people reading blog posts and like learning about it all online, even just doing the course, you'd be like, is it still real? Like, are people still doing it? And Then you go to your family and friends who want to keep you safe, and they're like, really? Like, you're going to buy an online business, like,
Yeah.
and you're learning from this dude online that you don't even know who he is? Like, how do you
Yeah. Oh
know that,
yeah.
like, it actually works? Like,
Yeah. And then you tell them you're buying products and wiring money to cross China all the way around the world.
yeah,
And, they're just like, oh my gosh, that seems a little risky there, but it's been a great adventure. And like I said, not a deep regret, but I just wonder where I would be if I didn't let those fears kind of infiltrate the mind 2 to 3 years ago when it first, kind of came up. It's like, where would I be? I mean, because in two or couple of weeks that I've had it, it's, I mean, already learning and, seeing different ways. Once you're in it, it really opens up. You start to see opportunity, you see things, and that you can't get just by reading blogs and things like that. You can get a lot, but until you really start moving the mouse and doing those things, it's hard to really learn it all. So I think that would be the one thing I would change is I'd go back and get moving a whole lot quicker. And I owe a lot of it to you. We had that call a month ago or so, and I told you about it, and you were like, well, just send them an LOI. And I was like, okay, did that. And then we talked about it, and it was just very systematic. And it was all of a sudden it was like, well, this is, like you said, it's a deal that you can't find a reason not to. So I finally just did it. Very glad we did.
Yeah, I'm glad we did as well. I mean, that's the thing is, like, when you speak to somebody that does it every day, and I'm just like, yeah, there's science to send an LOI, let's do it, this, do that, step, 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 step. And then you're there. It's like, that's the power of, like, whoa, okay, I don't know how this works, to like, okay, this dude does it all day, every day. Like,
Yeah.
just follow the steps. And I mean, I'm sure there's scary points as well. You're going to buy this business at the end of the day, and there's definitely those fears. But I think the biggest one that most people battle with is like, is it real? Like, can
Yeah.
I do it?
Yeah.
And that's what keeps them on the sidelines. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it's a lot of people don't have the mental fortitude to block out the people that have been the most influential in their life and not be affected by what they say, and their mind being affected by like scams or like, is this real? Like, it's very difficult. Like, that's probably the hardest part about buying an online business. Or yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's funny that, to me, it's looking back on it, it's funny that it's hard because, like, so I bought an e-commerce business that sells on Shopify, Etsy, Amazon, and it kind of has that mystique about it. But then I sit back and look at it now and I'm like, man, I buy something from Amazon every day. I get on random websites, put in my credit card information, and buy stuff. When you really look at it, you're like, wait a second. No, I'm doing that all the time. So many people are. It's not that far fetched when you really get down to it. It's pretty common. And so when you really think about it, you're like, wait, yeah, I can be the guy that owns that business.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes to get you across the line, is to understand, like, no, I can operate my phone, and
Yeah.
I can work out, like, if you can work out how to like buy my course, log in and go through the course, download a couple of PDFs, send a couple of files, speak to some buyers and sellers, like, that's all the technical ability you need.
So far, like I said, even making changes to the website on Shopify, it's no different than updating a Facebook page. I mean, it's
Yeah,
that simple.
that's a
It's
good
not
point.
that in depth, really. I was glad to see that.
Talking about tech, a funny little story yesterday. I was like, all right, I'm going to try this new little thing on Instagram, and I'm going to, like, for another business thing that I've got going on with a friend. We do some property investing, and Mike, I'm just going to like post like an Instagram reel, and I don't even know how to get like an Instagram post onto a reel. Like, I'm a dinosaur in tech now. Like,
Right. Right.
but it's not necessary to buy a business. But let's move
Yeah.
on from this. So yeah, it was a couple of years. Imagine where you would be, but like, hey, now you like,
Yeah.
with that energy of like, you're going to have that energy of like, I should have started this earlier, and you're going to put that into your business to grow it faster, which
Right.
is great energy. You just saved up that energy to be able to use now.
Yeah.
So no harm lost, really, I would say. And not to say people should be sitting on their hands and just like waiting around thinking this isn't real and isn't for them. But tell me about the business. You bought an e-commerce business. Why e-com?
Yeah. It was one of those things I could just really grasp. I mean, it's a physical product. I buy physical products all the time.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit of that tangible aspect to it. Funny story, probably about a year ago, I almost bought a content site, and there was a inspection period that you had 14 days of inspection. If it met certain levels after that 14 days of revenue and everything, that the deal would close. And within the second day of the inspection was one of Google's updates. And I mean, it just hammered it. And so that deal ended up falling through. To me, it kind of scared me a little bit on that, because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have any control over that. That just happened overnight. Google said, no, not today. And so then I kind of went back, reworked kind of my own search list and things that I was looking for, and ended up going to the e-commerce. I could really grasp just the physical product type thing. When I owned the coffee shops, we dealt with a lot of inventory, tons of different flavors, coffee beans, all of that. The plumbing has different parts, things like that and stuff. So inventory management's been something I've been doing already. And so, I really kind of started looking at it, and I was like, this is something that I think can fit my skill set, something that I can grasp and understand. And thankfully, that was an area of this business that was one of the weaker areas, was inventory management and just organization of it. When I looked at this business, it was something I was sitting there going, okay, it's a good business, it's done well, but the areas that I think it is struggling in is something that I'm like, I can do that. That's something I've already done. I just got to transfer it over to a different product and get a feel for it. So e-commerce just kind of stuck and kept looking, and this one just kind of fit a lot of that criteria and was able to get a good deal on it.
Yeah, great deal. So in the food and beverage niche e-com business, I remember this one where it was listed for a price and we bought it significantly less than the listed price.
Yeah.
What did you end up, tell me more about that, and what did you buy it for? What's it making per month?
Yeah, so it was listed for about a 30x monthly multiple. I guess that'd be a 1.5 yearly multiple.
Yep.
It was making about $5,300 a month net profit.
Sorry, 30x is 2 and a bit years. Sorry.
Yes. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. 2.5. And so I was looking at it, and the business has a lot of seller fulfilled. It wasn't super streamlined, wasn't a lot of processes. You can get on Empire Flippers and you pull up some of these businesses and it's like 1 hour a week or something like that. And this was not that. There was a lot of time into it. It's not one in its current state that you can just pick up and go out of town for a couple of weeks. And so when we, started to factor that in, like, you start doing kind of figuring out your time. You help me figure out kind of, hey, this is going to be the hourly rate that you're working for.
Yeah. I remember doing that calculation when we're looking at the due diligence. I was like, hang on a second. So it's making this much money. How many hours are you spending? What does it look like? And I remember saying to you, we can increase this hourly rate significantly with scaling the business.
Yeah.
Like, it might be where it's at now. That hourly rate might not be like, yes, I can't wait to do this as an hourly rate. But then we can talk about scale afterwards. But yeah, I remember that calculation. Yeah. It's important.
So we came up with a number, kind of, hey, we can't get it for this. Let's walk away. And you said 100,000. I actually was like, I'm going to go with 85. That kind of slept on it. And that was the number that, for whatever reason, stuck. And we went with that. And the seller was ready to move on.
It was listed significantly more than 100K though as well.
It was listed at 130. And we ended up getting an 85, which is about an 18x monthly multiple. So 1.5, ideally, if all goes well, we can scale it and get that money back even before then. So it went great. The seller was ready to move on. I think during due diligence, the seller even learned more about their business and kind of realized where it was at. And she's been a lot of help. So we ended up settling on that. And she kept all of her inventory at her location. So we ended up having to ship all of that inventory to me, because a lot of it was seller fulfilled. And we ended up not buying all the inventory.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah, there were 300 different SKUs. For one, I was just not physically capable or anything to handle that.
Do you remember our conversation around that?
Yeah, we were, and looking at it, about 80% of the business was of about 30 different SKUs.
Yeah, which is one of the questions I asked you and I ask everybody is like, what are the top 5 products that are selling and what percentage of revenue are coming from those top 5 products. And the scary thing about buying an e-commerce business that has inventory is not knowing, just buying all the inventory just because you think you're going to be able to sell it all. Whereas like maybe there's inventory there that has been sitting on the shelf for years and they're running ads and it's still not selling, which is what we worked out, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. We worked
you
out
don't want to
there would
purchase
be if all the trends stayed the same, there would be at the rate some of the products would still be in inventory way past both of our lifetimes.
that. Right.
And so we ended up just buying I think 28 different products.
And how many did she have in total?
About 300 different
Wow,
products.
yeah. See, that's really good because then you know, if you look at the past data of what's selling and the SKUs that are selling and versus the ones that are not, you're not buying depreciated or depreciating inventory and spending your money on something that you're basically buying something that you're never going to be able to sell. And this is a trick that some e-commerce sellers do, is they will sell their business plus inventory, but a lot of the inventory is not the stuff that are the best sellers. And you're basically just buying, like you're taking a liability off their hands and bringing it into your corner, which is, you need to understand inventory when you're acquiring an e-com business.
Absolutely. And we went through all 300 and looked at them. And the seller was basically going to sell them to me for pennies on the dollar, all the inventory. But I ended up going and working out, and some of those weren't worth taking for free because my time in unpacking it, organizing it, the cost to store it, all of that.
Yeah.
It would have been too much. So we ended up with about just under 30 SKUs, I think 28 to be exact. And we're already trying to hone in and even whittle that down a little bit. Find those best sellers, those ones that can get us the margins that we really like.
Yeah.
And really dial it in and streamline it. Like I said, there's a huge labor portion of the business. And so we can streamline it. Not only will it help us, but if we ever decide to sell the business, it's going to be more sellable and at a better multiple.
Awesome. Congrats. And so you bought this for 85K at an 18-month multiple. So what's that making net a month roughly?
Like, we haven't even owned it a month.
Yeah.
But it was making about 5,300. I think we'll be a little bit below that in the first month. We've had some time. We had to kind of slow down because we had about a week of shipping all of our products to us. So for about a week there, we had to kind of extend the handling times, which make it, but we're tracking good to be right at it. Buying it at such a good multiple, even if we're down, I'm not worried about it because right now we're trying to get our feet underneath us. That was the good thing, is we bought it, even if we're not doing the 5,300 that it was doing, we're really in the mindset right now of, if we make 3 to 4, great, as long as we're improving the actual business to put us on a good path to scale.
Well, yeah, it's just resetting first coaching call for growth, just getting the foundations right. I could see your eyes open up literally on that call. You're like, okay, this is good. Like, you just bought a good deal and you didn't realize how good the business is. Like, the business is good, but we didn't realize like how much untapped opportunity there is for the growth, right? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that first call after buying it. I think we hopped on the call and I was just kind of like, all right, we got a good deal, but I don't even know where to begin. And we rattled off 5 to 10 different items of ways to start improving that and growing. And so the business has a lot of untapped potential in B2B that I think it's got a real good spot that we could really do some stuff with that. The nice thing about this one is it was already on 3 platforms, Amazon obviously being the highest of them, but it already has traction on Etsy and Shopify. It really kind of spreads out a little bit of risk, gives us multiple lanes that we can scale in, not just one. And so this first month, like I said, we've been just getting our feet underneath us, figuring out what we've got, learning our way around Amazon Seller Centrals, Shopify, those things, and really organizing the business, pretty analytical. And so I like to have some organization to things as we do it. And so I think even just organizing it and understanding the business will open up a lot more ways to scale.
Yeah, for sure. Like working on the business with you, seeing the opportunities, it's great. And I want to talk about that in a second. I want to come back to the acquisition part. Like
Yeah.
a year ago, you nearly bought a content site, algorithm changed like within 2 days. People thinking like that's common. That's not common.
Yeah.
I spoke to Andy Alloway, CEO of Empire Flippers, just yesterday, and we're talking about like how the market has changed so much and the big events that have changed the markets. And the big event was 2023 and 2024, the changes like for content sites and
Right.
AI and LLMs and stuff like that. And that is an anomaly. It's not a normal thing. But that was a year ago. How many, like, this is good for people to realize, like, you've bought an exceptionally good business here for a great price and it's got good potential and we're going to scale it. And people are like, I want this result, right? But we
Yeah.
haven't talked about like what you've done to get here.
Right.
How long, like, people have this expectation of like, I'm going to do this course and in a month I'm going to buy a business, 3 months or 6 months even. When did you first find out about me? When did you start learning and doing the course? And how many businesses do you feel that you may have looked at?
Businesses looked at probably hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do social media. Even just my mindless scrolling is Empire Flippers, Quiet Life. That's my version of mindless scrolling. And so, yes, I've looked at tons of businesses. So, yeah, it's just been a process. I've known about you for a while, the podcast and different things, hearing you on other people's podcasts as well. And I want to say it was probably, I don't know, October, November that I was just like, I kind of was like, all right, I'm done being a wantrepreneur. We're doing this. I don't care. I'll take the risk. It's happening. So, but I wanted that mentorship, that somebody that's been there, done it, to do it. Because like I said, my circle around me here, it's crazy to them. So I was like, I've got to build that there. And so I'd say October, November, I went ahead and signed up for your course. That was a really big thing for me, was even just those first courses of due diligence and stuff, because it put that framework, it just really dialed it in.
Helps that free framework make sense, right? And we've got updated frameworks in the course, which are the ones that
Yeah.
you should be using.
Yeah. And it really it organized it better. It made things jump off the page for me. I remember some of the first 2 or 3 deals was doing the due diligence on. I mean, I kind of looked for weeks, but the moment I finally put it on that page, something jumped out at me and I'm like, why am I still looking at this? And so it just really cleaned up my search process. And this one was a lot like when I bought the plumbing company. It kept checking boxes for me that as I scrolled through that due diligence framework, it just kept checking. And so, yeah, so it's been a long process. I've looked at a ton of businesses, but I believe there's probably deals that if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have passed on then. And so I think that framework in your course was huge because it just cleaned up that process and it gave me the extra confidence of saying, yeah, this is all checking out.
Yeah, that's cool. So glad to hear that feedback. And yeah, hundreds of businesses looked at, met multiple months in October. So November, December, January, February, March, like 5-ish months or so before like.
Oh, yeah. And so that's one of the things that I know you've talked about it on some videos on the course and even on some podcasts. Like, I wish I did more seller calls even. You just learn a ton from them. And I remember some of my first ones, I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, like making sure, I'm like, if I don't say this right or something, I'm going to be found out that I haven't done this or something like that. And so just doing those calls and getting more comfortable on them to talk to brokers and things like that. What I found is everybody's there to help you and sell the business, and they want everybody to be a success because as a whole, we all want this market and these online businesses and this asset class to be a success.
Yeah, it's a journey to buy the business. So many DDs, so many seller calls. I'm glad that you shared it.
Yeah. It
The
was
nerves of being on the call.
it was definitely not an overnight thing. It was a process, and I think like you mentioned in your course, the more and more you do, you just get better at it. You get quicker. I kept getting quicker at disqualifying deals or and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, you could hit it right on the first deal you look at, but more than likely it could take 100+ deals before you find one that makes sense. And obviously my life has changed over this time. And so this deal might not have made sense a year ago for me,
Right.
but it was there. And so I think if it feels like it's taken a while, just I'd say stay in it because there's always deals showing up.
There's always deals, and that's what people think. It's like, oh, there's nothing in the market. It's like the way I explain it is like the way I don't like to motivate people anymore and push people anymore, because if somebody wants something bad enough, they'll get it done. And
Yeah.
if they don't, they won't. And
Yeah.
so for you, you're like in October, you're like, stuff it. Like, and that was like what, 5 months ago, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this no matter what. And you did. That's the energy you really need to, like, it's a life-changing event. Like, you're buying an online business and
Yeah.
building an asset that can allow you to be anywhere in the world at any time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if it takes that period of time, who cares? Like, who cares if it takes like a couple of years even? Like,
Right. Yeah. It's just,
it's
like
life-changing.
I said, once I made up my mind, because I was in a phase of my life that I was looking kind of like, what's my next thing going to be? So once like I said, I just finally, I was like, I'm done. This is what I'm doing, and dedicated a lot of time to it. It was a lot of hours just pouring over financials and all of that. But even that builds a skill that is beneficial for the business I own, because now that I own this business, I can think back to other businesses that I looked at and was like, oh, they did this or their numbers were this. It's going to benefit going forward, even now owning a business, because I've got 100 businesses I've looked at that maybe I picked up a thing here, a thing there that I can apply or make sure to avoid in my current business that we bought.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, you're spot on. Like, it's such a good education, and it's value that you can use moving forwards. And like you said, like, what's this next phase? What do you want your next phase of your life to look like? And it's an online business now. And what's your goal with this business and online businesses in general for the next 5 years plus? Like, is it scale this, sell it, and buy a new one, or just build out like a portfolio of multiple businesses, or like what's your, and it might not be either, but what's your goal?
Yeah, I would say my goal is to build out a bit of a portfolio. You know, when I had the coffee shops and they were successful, one of the things I didn't like was all my eggs were in one basket kind of thing. And that's a personality thing. Some people are better with one thing and scale it as big as they can. But yeah, I'd like to a bit of a portfolio. But I can't say, am I going to sell this one or not? I don't know. If it gets to a point where I'm like, it's time to move on from this and go to focus on some others, yeah, absolutely. I will say, personally, my favorite part of this and in business is the buying and selling portion of it. The in between is not usually my favorite part, actually. So yeah, so I would like to acquire more. You know, as I've even just in a few weeks, as I've seen, if you do it smartly and you stay on top and stay organized, these things you can actually run multiple. You know what I mean? I'm going to pump the brakes on that for a second and really dive into this one. I'd like to really improve this one. Got it at a good deal at a comfortable financial level for me personally, that this one's a little bit of a learning ground for me. It's my online MBA essentially, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's at a level for me that I can play around, take some bumps and bruises and still be okay. It's a good area for us to learn more about online businesses, and maybe 6 months or a year, maybe that'll be time for the next one. We'll see.
Cool. Super exciting. Yeah. I mean, like you said, when you first get the business, there's just so much involved with like learning it and understanding how to operate it. And
Yeah.
then you being a good operator, and most people, they start to become better operators with time and
Right.
experience. You get the business down to a couple of hours a week, and then you're like, well, it's growing and I'm putting a couple of hours a week into it, or I can have somebody do that work. Like, why not acquire something else as well, which is
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you know
Absolutely.
how to do it, it's fun. Like, it's like when you're the first, but you're like, I'm stressed and I want to do this because I hate where I'm at in my life. But like, once you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, then it becomes so much funner. Like, it's a lot
Yeah.
lighter.
Yeah. It's really opened my eyes to what's really out there and what can be done. I told you on our last call, I mean, when we got that first deposit in the bank, it was just like, okay, it's real. This is actually a thing. Because for a while there, you don't know about it. It sounds cool. It sounds great. But when it finally that first deposit hits, you're like, okay, like this can really be done. So it was a good feeling, and just want to do that a lot more times.
Yeah, so true. Let me ask, how was it? What was the difference? Because you started the coffee shops from scratch,
Yeah.
and you would have only like you would have spent so much money getting them started, like just even
Yeah.
before opening the doors, and then you slowly started to see a little bit of money trickle in. What was the difference between the coffee shop, like starting to earn money with a coffee shop versus this one? Like, because there was obviously a lot more money in like your first monthly payment of like, whoa, okay, this is
Yeah.
where the money's coming from. Like, was there a big difference, or was it, yeah, what was it like?
I remember one of the things is I bought like 50,000 coffee cups before I even had a business.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so there's a lot of expenses, a lot of unknowns, and it was a long process. I mean, I remember spending a week trying to figure out a name for the business, just every night going to bed, like, what am I going to call this thing? There was a lot of little decisions that I personally did not enjoy. With something like this, it was nice because it's like, okay, it's making money. Someone's already thought of that. There was some benefit that she had 300 different products because I can go and look at those and say, she tried this product, it didn't work. I don't even need to think about that now. So doing it this way is nice because they took some of the bumps and bruises for me that now I don't have to. And also it was like we closed when that inventory landed on my doorstep essentially. And the next day I'm out there packing orders. I mean, orders are coming in, money's going in the bank. There was not much of any of this come up with a logo, spend a lot of effort, and then hope. It was, I mean, it landed on the doorstep. We approved the wire and it was off to the races.
Perspective actually of like somebody else has figured out the mistakes for you,
Yeah.
and you get to learn from their mistakes, acquire the business, learn from their mistakes and not make those mistakes, but build on top of their successes, which is huge. Like, let's try and work this out, and we've got no data yet if it's going to work or not. Like
100%. And like I said, with the coffee shops, it's like we made a lot of mistakes along the way because we had nothing to go off of. It was, hey, I think this will work. Let's do it. Oh, it didn't work. What is it going to be? And I kept coming back to this and I was like, this is what I want it to be. Then you try the next thing. So this is nice because like I said, and even today I was texting with the seller, just questions, just like, hey, when you did this, how did you do it? Or what did you do? Or what quantity of a product did you order or something like that? And just having that knowledge that, where she can say, oh, I did it this way, but I didn't really like it. I think you should see if there's another way to do it. It saves a lot of time and energy, essentially money and in mistakes. So that's been huge. And also, like I said, just day one, flipping on the computer and seeing 15 orders that we got to do. It's like, it's a moving business. It's already a real thing. It's not something you have to create. I'm glad there are people that want to create them so that way people like us can go buy them.
fun. I love that. Well, Jpaul, congrats on the acquisition. Congrats on your success in the whole journey. And
Thank you.
I feel like there's another starting point for you now, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Everybody listening is super grateful. Somebody that has done what they want to do, for you to come on and share that. And then what was the tough parts about it? What are the good parts about it? Why it's been so valuable for you? It's massive appreciation for everybody.
I appreciate you having me on and the help, and listen to a lot of the interviews. And I will say to anybody listening, I'm as new to this as anybody. This is a first acquisition for an online business. It's a fun journey and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too. Congratulations, and let's scale this thing.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Everybody who's listening, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.